The restaurant was filled with soft music, gentle laughter, and the sound of glasses clinking. It was one of the most expensive places in Los Angeles, a spot where only rich businessmen, celebrities, and powerful people usually came to show their status. Every table sparkled with candlelight. Waiters moved silently. Everything looked perfect. At one corner table near the glass window sat Keanu Reeves with his wife. No security guards. No flashy clothes. No attention-seeking behavior. Just two people enjoying a quiet dinner together. Keanu wore a simple black jacket and jeans. His wife wore an elegant but modest dress, her smile calm and warm. They looked peaceful. But not everyone appreciated that peace. Across the room, a loud and arrogant man sat with his friends. His name was Victor Hale, a rich businessman known for showing off his money wherever he went. Gold rings on his fingers. A luxury watch on his wrist. A glass of expensive wine in his hand. He laughed loudly and spoke even louder. While talking, his eyes suddenly landed on Keanu's table. He stared for a few seconds, then smirked. "Seriously?" he whispered to his friends. "That's Keanu Reeves?" They looked. They nodded. "And that woman with him?" Victor continued. "She doesn't even look like she belongs here." His friends chuckled. Victor leaned forward, his voice rising. "Look at her clothes. So simple. No designer bag. No diamonds. Why would a star like him bring someone like that here?" A nearby table heard him. Some people turned their heads. Others pretended not to notice. Keanu heard everything. So did his wife. But neither reacted. They kept talking softly. They kept smiling. They kept enjoying their meal. That silence only made Victor bolder. He stood up slightly from his chair. "Hey," he called out. "Keanu." The entire restaurant slowly went quiet. Music faded. Forks stopped. All eyes turned. Keanu looked up calmly. Victor raised his glass and laughed. "Man, I respect your movies," he said loudly. "But you should respect yourself more." He pointed slightly toward Keanu's wife. "Next time, bring someone who fits your status." A sharp silence fell over the room. Keanu placed his fork down, slowly. He looked at his wife, then back at Victor. His eyes were calm. But something had changed. In that moment, everyone felt it. A line had been crossed. And no one inside that restaurant knew that this single sentence was about to change Victor's life forever. After Victor's words echoed through the restaurant, a heavy silence settled over the room. No one laughed. No one moved. It was as if time itself had paused. Some guests slowly looked away, pretending they hadn't heard anything. Others stared openly, shocked by his boldness. Keanu's wife lowered her eyes for a moment. Not because she felt weak, but because she didn't want to give Victor the satisfaction of seeing her hurt. Keanu noticed. He gently reached across the table and held her hand. His touch was calm, reassuring, protective. She looked up and smiled softly. "I'm okay," she whispered. Keanu nodded. That simple moment showed more love and strength than any loud argument ever could. Meanwhile, Victor leaned back in his chair, proud of himself. He believed he had just made a powerful joke. A joke that proved his status. His friends laughed nervously. One of them whispered, "Bro, maybe that was too much." Victor waved him off. "Relax. These celebrities live for attention." He took another sip of wine. Across the room, the restaurant manager, Mr. Daniels, had been watching everything. A tall man in his 50s with years of experience dealing with famous guests. He knew trouble when he saw it. And this was trouble. He started walking toward Victor's table. But before he could reach it, Victor stood up again. This time he grabbed his jacket and walked directly toward Keanu's table. Every step echoed loudly on the marble floor. Tap, tap, tap. People whispered. "What is he doing? Is he crazy?" Someone stop him. A waiter froze in place, holding a tray of drinks. Victor stopped right beside Keanu's table. He leaned slightly forward, resting one hand on the chair. "So," he said with a smirk, "did I hurt your feelings?" Keanu looked up slowly. His face showed no anger, no ego, no fear, only calm. "Sit down," Keanu replied quietly. "You're disturbing everyone." Victor laughed. "Wow. Still humble, huh?" He glanced at Keanu's wife. "You know," he continued, "I've seen women with movie stars before. They're usually glamorous, famous, expensive." He paused for effect. "Not ordinary." A few people gasped. Someone whispered, "That's cruel." Keanu's wife finally spoke. Her voice was soft but steady. I'm proud to be ordinary, she said. It means I'm real. Some guests nodded in agreement. Victor rolled his eyes. Cute speech, he said. But reality works differently. He turned to the waiter. Hey, bring them something cheap. Maybe water is enough for them. The waiter looked helplessly at Keanu. Keanu gently shook his head. No need, he said. We're done here. He stood up, slowly, gracefully. The entire room watched. He pulled out his wallet and placed a thick stack of bills on the table. More than enough. For the meal, he said. And for the inconvenience. Then he helped his wife stand. She held his arm. Together they turned toward the exit. But as they took their first step, a voice shouted from behind. Wait. It was Mr. Daniels, the manager. His face looked pale. Mr. Reeves, please don't leave. Everyone stared. Victor froze. Mr. Reeves, he whispered. And in that moment, he realized something was terribly wrong. The moment the manager spoke Keanu's name, the entire restaurant fell into complete silence. Mr. Reeves, please don't leave. Those words echoed like thunder. Every head turned. Every phone slowly lifted. Victor's confident smile vanished. Mr. Reeves? He repeated softly. His heart skipped a beat. For the first time that night, doubt entered his mind. But his ego refused to surrender. He straightened his jacket and forced a laugh. So what? He said loudly. He's famous. Big deal. Some guests shook their heads. Others whispered. He's still acting proud? Doesn't he understand yet? Mr. Daniels rushed closer. Sir, he said respectfully to Keanu, please accept my apologies. What happened here is unacceptable. Keanu raised his hand gently. It's not your fault, he replied calmly. Respect can't be forced. Victor scoffed. Respect? He interrupted. People earn respect with money and power. He pointed to his watch. Look at this. Cost more than some people's houses. Keanu looked at him quietly. Is that what defines you? He asked. Victor smirked. Of course. What else matters? A woman from another table stood up. Kindness matters, she said. Something you clearly don't have. People murmured in agreement. Victor's face turned red. He felt cornered. And when arrogant people feel cornered, they attack. He suddenly grabbed Keanu's bill from the table. Let's see how rich you really are, he said. Before anyone could stop him, he pulled out a lighter. Click. A small flame appeared. Gasps filled the room. Are you insane? Someone shouted. Victor held the flame close to the bill. Fake money deserves fire, he laughed. And then, he lit it. The paper curled. Edges turned black. Smoke rose into the air. The smell of burning paper spread. The restaurant froze in horror. Waiters dropped trays. Guests stood up. Phones recorded everything. Mr. Daniels shouted, Stop. Security. But it was too late. The bill burned to ashes in Victor's hand. He dropped the remains onto the floor. There, he said proudly. Now leave. Silence followed. Heavy. Painful. Uncomfortable. Keanu's wife looked down. Not at the ashes. At Victor. With sadness. Not anger. Not fear. Pity. Keanu slowly bent down and picked up the ashes. He stood up straight. His voice was calm. Do you know what you just burned? He asked. Victor laughed nervously. Your pride. Keanu shook his head. No, he replied. A donation check. People gasped. For a children's hospital, Keanu continued. Tonight's dinner was a meeting for that. Whispers exploded. A hospital? For kids. He burned charity money? Victor's face went pale. That's a lie, he stammered. Keanu looked at Mr. Daniels. Can you confirm? The manager nodded quickly. Yes, he said. Mr. Reeves has been supporting our charity partners for years. A doctor sitting nearby stood up. It was for my patients, he said. Sick children who need surgery. The room filled with angry murmurs. Victor backed away. I didn't know, he whispered. Keanu stepped closer. For the first time, he said quietly, you're telling the truth. Outside, sirens could be heard. Security rushed in. And Victor realized, his joke had just become his biggest nightmare. The sound of approaching security echoed through the restaurant like distant thunder. Heavy footsteps, urgent voices, crackling radios. 2 security guards rushed in from the entrance, scanning the room. What happened here? One of them asked firmly. All eyes turned toward Victor. He stood frozen near Keanu's table, his face pale, his lips trembling. The ashes of the burned check lay scattered on the marble floor like silent evidence. Mr. Daniels stepped forward quickly. "Sir," he said to the guards, "this man destroyed private property and caused a public disturbance." Victor shook his head desperately. No, it's not like that," he said. "It was just a joke." A bitter laugh rose from somewhere in the crowd. "A joke?" a man said. "You burn money for sick children." More people joined in. "Shame on you. That's heartless. Disgusting behavior." Phones were everywhere now. Red lights blinking. Cameras recording. Live streams starting. Victor realized this moment was being saved forever. On the internet. On social media. In people's memories. Keanu stood quietly beside his wife. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't look angry. But his silence carried more weight than shouting ever could. One of the guards approached Victor. "Sir, we need you to come with us." Victor panicked. "Wait," he cried. "Please, let me explain." He turned toward Keanu. "I'm sorry," he begged. "I didn't know it was for charity." Keanu looked at him for a long moment. Then he spoke. "You didn't ask," Keanu said. "You assumed." Those two words cut deeper than any insult. Victor lowered his head. Nearby, a young waitress wiped tears from her eyes. "My brother is in that hospital," she whispered. "That money could have helped him." Several guests gasped. Victor looked up in shock. I didn't know," he repeated weakly. A doctor stepped forward again. "Every donation matters," he said firmly. "You can't replace compassion with excuses." The manager turned to Keanu. "Mr. Reeves," he said nervously, "please let us handle this properly. We will make sure justice is served." Keanu nodded slightly. "I trust you," he replied. One of Victor's friends tried to intervene. "Come on guys," he said. He made a mistake. A woman from another table snapped back. "Mistakes don't come with lighters." Applause broke out. Slow. Then louder. Victor felt completely alone. The guards gently held his arms. "Sir, please cooperate." He looked around one last time. No one defended him. No one supported him. Only disappointed faces stared back. As he was led toward the exit, he suddenly collapsed to his knees. "Please," he cried. "I'll pay it back. Double. Triple." Keanu walked closer. He crouched slightly to meet Victor's eyes. "Money can be replaced," Keanu said softly. "Character cannot." Victor sobbed. "I've always used money to feel important," he admitted. "I didn't know any other way." Keanu listened quietly. Then he replied, "Real importance comes from how you treat people when no one is watching." The restaurant was silent again. Even the guards paused. Keanu stood up. He reached into his wallet and pulled out another check. He handed it to Mr. Daniels. "For the hospital," he said. 5 times the amount. Gasps filled the room. Some people wiped tears. Others whispered prayers. The doctor smiled gratefully. "On behalf of those children," he said. "Thank you." Keanu turned to his wife. She squeezed his hand proudly. "You didn't have to," she whispered. "I wanted to," he replied. The guards helped Victor stand and continued escorting him out. As the door closed behind him, the room erupted in applause. Not for fame, not for wealth, but for dignity. And in that moment everyone understood. This story was no longer about an insult. It was about redemption, respect, and the power of quiet strength. The applause slowly faded, but the energy inside the restaurant remained intense. People were still standing. Some were wiping their eyes. Others were whispering in disbelief. What had started as a simple dinner had turned into a powerful moment no one would ever forget. Keanu and his wife returned to their seats quietly. They didn't seek attention. They didn't smile for cameras. They simply sat down, holding hands, trying to regain their peace. Mr. Daniels wiped sweat from his forehead and hurried toward them. "Mr. Reeves," he said respectfully, "I don't know how to apologize enough for what happened tonight." Keanu shook his head gently. "You don't need to," he replied. "Life gives lessons in strange ways." The manager nodded, deeply moved. He turned to the staff. "Everyone," he announced. "Tonight's service for Mr. Reeves and his wife is on the house." The staff applauded softly. But Keanu raised his hand. "No," he said. "Please charge me. Someone worked hard for this." The waiters exchanged emotional looks. One whispered, "He's famous, yet so humble." Across the room, a middle-aged woman stood up. She looked nervous but determined. "Mr. Reeves," she said. "My name is Linda." She pointed toward a young boy sitting beside her. This is my son Ethan. He has leukemia. The restaurant went quiet again. She continued with trembling hands. He's been treated at the same hospital you support. Tears rolled down her face. Your donations paid for his medicine. Keanu stood immediately. He walked over and knelt in front of the boy. What's your favorite superhero? He asked gently. Ethan smiled weakly. John Wick, he whispered. Laughter spread softly. Keanu smiled. Then you're already the strongest hero here. He signed the boy's small notebook and hugged him carefully. The mother sobbed with gratitude. This is why that check mattered, the doctor said quietly. Not numbers, lives. Suddenly one of the guards returned. Sir, he said to Mr. Daniels, there's something you should see. They whispered in his ear. The manager's face changed. He walked quickly to Keanu. Mr. Reeves, he said. That man. Victor Hale. Keanu looked up. Yes. He owns several companies, Daniels continued. But most of his wealth comes from loans and illegal tax shortcuts. Gasps rose. Authorities are investigating him, the guard added. Tonight's incident exposed him publicly. Phones buzzed everywhere. News alerts appeared. Business tycoon under investigation after public scandal. Charity check burning sparks federal probe. Victor's downfall had begun. Keanu closed his eyes briefly. I didn't want this, he said quietly. But truth finds its way. Meanwhile outside, Victor sat in a police car. Reporters surrounded it. Mr. Hale. Any comment? Do you regret your actions? He stared at his shaking hands. I lost everything, he whispered. Because I forgot how to be human. Back inside, Mr. Daniels gathered the staff. Tonight, he said firmly, we witnessed what real leadership looks like. He pointed at Keanu. Not control. Not money. Character. The guests stood and applauded again. This time longer. Stronger. Keanu looked uncomfortable. Please, he said. I'm just a person. His wife smiled. That's why they respect you. Later that evening, Keanu quietly paid the full bill plus a generous tip. He also left an envelope for the staff. Inside was a note. Thank you for choosing kindness even under pressure. And a donation for their families. The head waiter opened it and cried. This will change our lives, he whispered. As the night came to an end, the restaurant slowly returned to normal. Tables cleared. Music resumed. But something had changed. People spoke more softly. Smiled more sincerely. Treated staff with more respect. Keanu and his wife prepared to leave. Before walking out, Keanu looked around one last time. This place learned something tonight, he said. His wife nodded. So did we, she replied. Never underestimate quiet goodness. Hand in hand they stepped into the night, unaware that their story was already spreading across the world. Outside the restaurant, the cool night air wrapped around Keanu and his wife like a quiet blessing. The city lights reflected on the wet pavement. Cars passed softly. Life moved on. But for everyone inside, nothing felt the same anymore. Keanu opened the car door for his wife. Are you okay? He asked gently. She smiled. I'm more than okay, she replied. I'm proud of you. He shook his head. You handled it better than I did, he said. You never let anger control you. She squeezed his hand. Because I learned from you. They sat quietly for a moment before driving away. No interviews. No cameras. No drama. Just peace. Back inside, Mr. Daniels gathered his staff in a small circle. His voice was emotional. Tonight, he said, I saw what real professionalism looks like. He looked at the young waiter who had frozen earlier. You stayed respectful even when you were scared. Then he turned to the crying waitress. You spoke from your heart. He handed each of them an envelope. A bonus, he announced. From Mr. Reeves. The staff gasped. Some hugged each other. Others wiped tears. This man changed our lives, one whispered. Across town, in a quiet hospital room, Ethan slept peacefully. His mother sat beside him, holding Keanu's signed notebook. She whispered, Angels walk among us, quietly. Meanwhile, Victor sat alone in a holding room. No phone. No friends. No luxury. Just a hard chair and cold walls. He stared at his reflection in the window. I became a monster, he murmured. For the first time in years he cried. Not for money. For who he had become. A police officer approached. You'll be released for now, he said. But investigations are ongoing. Victor nodded silently. He walked out into the night with nothing but regret. The next morning, headlines were everywhere. Keanu Reeves turns insult into inspiration. Actor's humility stuns nation. From hate to hope in one night. Social media exploded. Millions shared the story. Comments flooded in. He's a real hero. This is how humans should be. Respect never goes out of style. Keanu ignored it all. He was at home making coffee, reading a book, feeding his dog, living simply. His wife read some comments aloud. "Listen to this," she laughed. "If fame had a face, it would be Keanu." He smiled shyly. "They're exaggerating," he said. A week later, the hospital announced something amazing. With Keanu's donation and public support, a new children's wing would be built. Free treatment. More doctors. Better equipment. The doctor made a speech. One man's kindness inspired thousands. More donors joined. More lives were saved. Victor watched the news from his small apartment. No servants. No luxury. Just a TV and a sofa. He saw Ethan smiling on screen. And broke down again. That night he wrote a letter. To Keanu. "I'm sorry. Not for losing money. For losing my humanity. You showed me what strength really is. I don't know if I deserve forgiveness. But I promise to change." He mailed it. Weeks later, Keanu received the letter. He read it silently. Then he smiled gently. "He's learning," he said. He wrote back only 3 words. "Be better. Always." Months passed. Victor sold his cars. Closed shady businesses. Started working with charities. Not for fame. For redemption. One evening, Keanu and his wife visited the hospital. No cameras. No announcements. Ethan ran to them. "I'm strong now," he shouted. Keanu hugged him. "You always were." His wife wiped tears. "This is the real reward," she said. And in that quiet hospital hallway, it became clear. The insult had ended, but the lesson had just begun. Months after that unforgettable night, life had slowly returned to its normal rhythm. The restaurant was once again filled with soft music. Laughter echoed gently. Waiters moved confidently between tables. But something invisible had changed. People were kinder. They spoke more politely. They treated staff with respect. They listened before judging. That night had planted a seed. And now it was growing everywhere. Keanu and his wife rarely spoke about what happened. They never turned it into interviews. They never used it for attention. To them, it wasn't a story. It was simply a moment where kindness was tested. And chosen. One afternoon, while walking through a quiet park, his wife asked softly, "Do you think people really change?" Keanu stopped. He looked at a group of children playing nearby. Laughing. Falling. Getting back up. "Yes," he replied. "When they're ready to be honest with themselves." Victor was trying. His life was simple now. No luxury cars. No private jets. No expensive parties. Instead, he volunteered at shelters. Helped organize food drives. Spent time with sick children. At first, people didn't trust him. They remembered the video. The scandal. The humiliation. But Victor never complained. He accepted their doubt. "Trust isn't given," he once said. "It's earned." Slowly, people began to see the change. Not in words. In actions. Ethan returned to school. Stronger. Smiling. Full of dreams. One day he stood in front of his class and said, "When I grow up, I want to help people like Keanu did." His teacher wiped her eyes. "Then you already are a hero," she replied. The hospital wing was completed within a year. A large glass wall displayed hundreds of names. Donors. Doctors. Volunteers. At the top, in small letters, was written, "Built with love, not ego." Keanu had requested it. No spotlight. No big name. Just a message. During the opening ceremony, a reporter asked him, "Why didn't you take credit for all this?" Keanu smiled. "Because good deeds lose their power when they're done for applause." His wife squeezed his hand proudly. That night at home they sat on the balcony. Stars above. Silence around. "Do you ever regret not responding angrily?" she asked. Keanu shook his head. "Anger is easy," he said. "Grace is hard." "And what lasts longer?" she smiled. "Grace," he replied. Victor watched the ceremony online. He didn't feel jealousy. He felt gratitude. "That man saved me," he whispered. Not from prison. From himself. Across the world, millions had watched their story. Some forgot it. Some shared it. But some changed because of it. A shopkeeper stopped mocking poor customers. A teacher listened more patiently. A businessman paid fair wages. A teenager chose kindness over bullying. Small actions. Big impact. And now let me ask you something. Have you ever judged someone too quickly? By their clothes? By their job? By their accent? By their status? We all have. We're human. But being human also means we can do better. Respect is not about fear. It's not about money. It's not about fame. Respect is about how you treat people. When there's nothing to gain. When no one is watching. When it costs you something. That's when character is revealed. Keanu once said quietly to a friend, "The world doesn't need more famous people. It needs more decent ones." And that night proved it. So next time you walk into a room, be gentle. The waiter serving you. The cleaner passing by. The stranger sitting alone. They all carry stories. Battles you can't see. Dreams you can't imagine. Your words might break them. Or heal them. Choose wisely. Victor chose late. But he chose. Ethan chose early. And that made all the difference. Keanu and his wife chose every day. Without cameras. Without applause. Just love. And now, it's your turn. Type respect red heart in the comments if you believe kindness is true power. Type change fire if you believe people deserve second chances. And tell me, where are you watching from? Because every voice matters. Every story matters. Including yours.